We have another Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor comedy here with Silver Streak. This was the first movie that they starred alongside each other with, released in 1976. I previously reviewed See No Evil, Hear No Evil last year, and I had a mediocre response to it. I guess I just expected more from these comedic giants. So, the Silver Streak changed my tune.
Silver Streak, directed by Arthur Hiller, takes a bit of a Hitchcock approach to its story. Gene Wilder plays George, riding a train to his sister's wedding when he accidentally witnesses a murder. After attempting to confront the villains, he's thrown off the train and desperately tries to catch up with it again in order to save a woman he met, Hilly, and eventually gains the assistance of a crook played by Richard Pryor. With a plot like that, I was actually a bit excited to watch. I'm a big fan of Hitchcock mysteries and thrillers, and taking notes from his work while also creating humor around an invigorating story seemed more intriguing than humor revolving around a quick idea, like having the main characters blind and deaf. As things begin, I'm a bit surprised that this was even categorized in the comedy genre, because for the most part, there's not too many laughs. From the opening act, it's played more straight and with a serious tone. George runs into Ned Beatty's character Bob, who's a bit of a womanizer, choosing to travel by train for the opportunity to hit up the ladies. He tries to talk with Hilly, but it goes south, and she instead starts a romantic connection with George. This is just what you'd expect in an Alfred Hitchcock movie, but I kept waiting for something funny to happen. This isn't really a criticism because the chemistry between these two is believable, and the scene in their cabin is pretty sensual. I'm not normally a fan of this kind of thing, but the dialogue and the camera work makes for a pretty entertaining moment. In fact, it made me question if this should have forgotten about the comedic aspects and gone for thrills. However, George witnesses the murder of Hilly's boss, and he's thrown off the train by Jaws from the James Bond franchise, and he meets a farm lady who owns an airplane. At this point, it becomes a lot like It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, and he tries to reach the platform in time to protect Hilly's life. You'd be astonished to know that Richard Pryor doesn't show up until halfway through, when George, in an almost repetitive way, gets tossed from the train again. I'm not really getting bored, but there's a tonal issue throughout. It doesn't have its mindset on one kind of plot, so you sacrifice a potential post-Hitchcock adventure for a misplaced comedy duo vehicle. I love Wilder and Pryor, but honestly, their joint films don't really showcase their best work. It's always been said that Pryor was meant to be in Blazing Saddles as Bart, but given what I've seen of them together so far, I'm glad that never happened. They're both hilarious, but it never works well as a partnership with the given material. It's two different movies trying to mesh as one, but the results are subpar. The only big, humorous moment happens to be the one that's aged the worst. Pryor devises a scheme to sneak George past the cops when he's wanted for murder, so he grabs some shoe polish, rubs it on George, and he does the jazz singer routine. George does the typical stereotypes without making a comment on anything, so it just feels a bit lame and it's trying too hard. It works better as a thriller, and the only reason Pryor is here is for the good back and forth he has with Wilder. Studios must have agreed because they'd be together again for 3 more films. However, I preferred the opening setup and the climactic train scenes, rather than the attempts at laughter. The final train crash is a great depiction of classic special effects with the miniatures, projections, and matte paintings. With all this work done, it stands out as looking just as good as some of the modern technology, and makes the argument for a dying art form. For anyone just interested in 70s takes on classic suspense and has an adoration for old school comedians, this might end up working for you. Ultimately, I wasn't as satisfied as I was hoping, but I still had a good time. Sometimes that's all you need. Enjoy the little things. Thanks to Lucas for this Patreon request, and thanks to all my Patreon supporters. For only $7, you can get your own monthly movie review. Ask me to review anything I haven't already. There's also other perks like blogs, exclusive videos, and early access. You can also follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and thanks so much for watching this video.